What's up, y'all? This DT Legend here. I want to address a few questions and concerns some of y'all women have regarding why your men change while they're in prison. Okay, so whether it's intentional or not, understand that the design of prison debases us. It denigrates us and humiliates us. Sometimes even breaks us. Through this design, we develop psychological disorders as a result. Everything from mental arrested development to learned helplessness, depression, even PTSD are some of the side effects of everything we go through in prison. So, aside from the eloquent speech and psychological profiles, let me just tell you straight up and down, prison fucks us up. I'm not saying this to garner sympathy or to betray us in prison as victims, but I do think it's important for y'all being women who deal with men in prison to understand why we sometimes do change, why we behave other than ourselves, and why we typically behave different than we did, while we was out. And, I'm talking about men that do a significant amount of time, not those who do skip bids, meaning like a year, a few months or so. So look, here it goes. How do you think us men in prison are able to accept being disrespected and humiliated on a regular basis by COs? Because this does happen. How do we accept being taken away from our kids and our women for a significant amount of time, or even not being able to see our women and our kids? How do we accept going from being in control to being controlled, or from an alpha male to a lowly man child? We do it by mentally adjusting. So this adjustment is mostly done on a subconscious level. We're not aware of these adjustments we make. But if we didn't mentally adjust to our situation, we would go insane. The dissonance between what we accepted in the streets and what we accept now is so extreme that we wouldn't be able to react normal on a day-to-day basis if we wasn't able to mentally adjust. So we do adjust to our circumstances, and those adjustments often lead to separate behavioral changes. So we may become more passive throughout our day-to-day, or more aggressive, more romantic, or religious, family-oriented, needy, insecure, so on and so forth. So some of y'all, ladies out there get upset and don't understand why your man is acting unnecessarily insecure at certain times. But this is why, this mental adjustment, which led to the behavioral change. Or he may become overly aggressive with you, whereas he didn't really act like that in the streets. Some of y'all might even like the new needy or romantic him. But whether you do or not, understand that this new him is just an adjustment to his circumstance. It's not really a new him. He is who he was before he got here. Which is why when he get out, if you got it, he typically becomes the same old him. So, don't get it twisted. I don't mean to cast doubt on the men who have worked on themselves and bettered themselves and did in fact change. Many men in prison did change by reflection, self-reflection, classes, programs, books, or whatever. They worked on themselves, they matured, they became different, or their behaviors became different than what they used to be. But I'm specifically speaking about those whose characters changed as a result of the mental adjustment they had to make to being in prison. And so I'm going to say this for y'all ladies who don't like the change that some of these men go through. Just bear with it. Understand what it is. It's his circumstances. It's prison, It's not like this is who you're going to have when you go home. A lot of times he's going to be the same thing. Now, if you do like the changes that he made in prison, it's on you to work with him, because he may not even recognize it. So it's on you to work with him through these changes. But if you don't like it, just be patient. Talk with him constantly. Make him aware of the difference. You wasn't doing this. Why are you doing this now? But again, remember what I said. The design of prison is meant to debase us and denigrate us and humiliate us. So he's already dealing with a lot as far as ego-wise and pride-wise and emotionally. So if he feels he's being attacked, he may get aggressive. But it's on communication. It's on you to understand these things, because he may not, and for you to help him work through it. I know. It always seems like I'm putting the pressure on y'all to do the work. I'm just speaking from our perspective, men in prison. We often don't know these things. We just walking into it. So if you want to make it work, maybe it should be on you. Alright, so look, this DT Legend. Any questions, concerns, or curiosities regarding your man in prison, hit me up on dt.legend2019 at gmail.com.